I was recently speaking about configuration in ASP.NET Core, and I said, you can store configuration anywhere. And someone said, not anywhere. And I was like, oh yeah, everywhere. Let's mash on that.
Hi everybody, and welcome to episode number 50 of the ASP.NET Monsters. Today we're going to look at ridiculous configuration sources.
Right. So, so there's a little bit of backstory here. As I said, I was speaking recently at DevTeach in Montreal, Canada, Montreal, Canada, and I one of the questions, somebody came up and said, "Hey, I have this config that's stored in something that is not a JSON file, and it's not an ini file, and so what? Like, and I said, don't worry about it. You can actually do." Not video. I said, you can do configuration from anywhere. And he said, well, not anywhere. And I said, well, of course you can. Like, why couldn't you? And he said, well, how about from live video? And it got me thinking, you could probably do configuration from live video if you were dropping frames on disk and periodically. And then better yet, there's this whole class structure that already supports file monitoring so that when files change, your configuration is automatically updated. So by the time I got back to my hotel room, I kind of thought through the thing and I was like, yeah, you know what? I'm going to do this. So I did it. We can't take it back. I present to you for your amusement and possibly production use, add image file. Much like add JSON file or config file or ini file or whatever the others are, you can now add an image file as your configuration. So I got to thinking about it and how I might put it together. And what I came up with was, well, let's start with an image that has an option in it. So it would look something like this.
So I'm shaking my head here, James. Have you lost your mind?
Maybe. You're shaking your head because of the brilliance.
We'll go either way, but has button, no, because that's what the cat would say. So let's run the application. I will run it here quickly, and we'll just have a quick look at what it's going to do. Essentially, it's going to throw a view up. The view has a viewbag property that is set in the controller. The control has some configuration passed in as part of the dependency injection bits. And let me see where this is coming up. It is running. It is not running. What are we doing?
The build has started. It's probably waiting for you to stream video to it.
It's waiting for its live video source. Okay, here we go. So it's going to load this up, and we'll have to walk through this one time really quickly. I will bring up our grumpy cat in just a second here. So yeah, there's a number of pieces that come in play, and you have to. There's a pattern that's already been exposed, and they've got it set up in place for any file-based patterns where they've got things like parsers and those types of things. I believe that I know what the problem is. I believe I might be in eco mode. Is that true?
Because you care about the environment?
Battery saver is not on, so we should be okay. So here it is. It says the button is disabled. Now I want to show you. We're not going to restart the app. Okay, I'm going to go in here, and I'm just going to move back a step here. You can see that there's no longer a checkbox in it. And when I save this, and I go back here, and I revisit it, come on. Oh, no. Okay, well, we're going to have to figure out what did I save the image? Oh no, guys, this was working. Okay, edit point. Let's figure out what went sideways on us here. Oh, right. I actually need to change this guy just a little bit. So there's a couple of overloads for this. Okay, let me...
the watcher isn't set up, I assume?
Yeah, my watcher's not set up. That's exactly right. Okay, so I'm going to leave all that in there. Even though I messed up a little bit, here's the thing. Demos are fun and all that jazz, but you can see that I've got 2 overloads, and I would have liked to have done this, just nailed this for, we'll pretend that we're starting over again. I'm not going to provide a provider. I don't need to, but I've got an overload for it, so we'll do that. Now this is optional. I'm going to say that it's not optional, and I'm going to say reload on change is true. That's the key thing right there, is the reload on change. So this, I believe that this is still working. I'm going to run it again, and I am having a little bit, it's build started. We're going to take a second here. But basically, this is just an extension method that I've created as part of the whole image as config kind of idea. So I'll just kind of expand a couple of these here. You can see that I've got a couple of classes. So it did take a little bit of work to get this set up. But I mean, it's effort for the team, right? It's for the...
Totally worth it, obviously.
I think
what else would you do one evening in Montreal?
Well, exactly. Actually, I wrote this. This was written in the wee hours while my wife was sleeping, and I decided that I didn't have enough on my plate already. So I decided that I would try and do configuration from an image. Okay, so this is loading back up. We're going to go back in here. We can see that Kitty does not have this button checked, and as soon as this config stops, I need to find a way to record videos that doesn't kill my computer. Okay, so I'm gonna, just to show you there's no magic here at all, we're gonna take that paintbrush and we're gonna put a little checkbox in here. I'm gonna save this file. We're gonna cross our fingers. Boom. Right there.
Oh, that is amazing.
It's magic. It's maybe the best use of computers ever.
So we did
Quite
not
possibly.
have to save. We did not have to restart our application. There was no deployment or reconfig. We just clicked the little checkbox. So this is perfectly legitimate. Okay, let's look at the pieces that are actually in play here. There's a few of them. So as you can see, I have this config image that we already had a look at. That's the one that I'm editing right now in Paint.net. I also have this one called config.jpeg.regions. So this is the name of the setting that I actually want. These are the XY coordinates as the next 2 pieces. And then finally, the square size of the region that we want to evaluate for non-white pixels. So you can have as many options, Boolean options, as you want in an image. I mean, you could do anything with this. Okay. So the extensions that I was talking about, we have a couple of them in here. So the first is just the simpler version with the 2 strings, so the image path and the regions path. And the second one is the one that allows us to do the reload on change. So basically, I more or less modeled this off of what was possible out of the JSON bits. Now, I have a configuration parser. This is what is used to iterate over the image. And I do need to point out that at this time that this will only run on full framework. And there's a reason for that. Do you guys know why?
Bitmap.
That guy,
That's
right?
my guess too.
That is the system.drawing. So unfortunately, this doesn't work on Core. However, you can run ASP.NET Core MVC on the full framework. So it doesn't work on Core yet. However,
but you could put something in here to say, hey, if I'm running on Core, then let's call out to ImageMagick and have it extract this stuff for me.
Exactly.
And you could find some third-party library.
Exactly.
Sort of
you
stuff.
could use there's actually like the servers that you can set up and things like that. I think that's one of them is ImageMagick. There's a couple of others that are based off of HTTP protocols, so you can pass in an image and do some, or have it configured to watch a path, and then you can ask it questions about the image and things like that. So there are some other scenarios out there, but what we're basically doing here is we are given a stream from the framework when it is, or as part of it, later on we'll have a look at it, but we basically pass the stream into this method along with the series of regions that we want to evaluate. And then for each region inside of this image, we're going to iterate over the XY coordinates. We're going to look and see if any of them are not pure white. And all I'm doing is basically saying if you've got enough R and enough G and enough B that it's greater than a difference of 15 from 255, then we've detected that you've put a little tick in there. So you can, some people, Simon, here's the thing, they prefer to put an X. Did you know that?
I have heard that sort of thing.
Yep.
With
So
15,
how-
that seems very scientific.
Yeah, I think that's probably what people would call the dimpled Chad allowance.
Exactly. Well, I mean, in Canada, we use birch bark and pine cones, so there's absolutely no chance of running into the dimpled Chad. But yeah, this is exactly right. So,
It's
if
havoc
we,
if a beaver gets into your ballot box, though.
I know, you got to keep those beavers out. So here is just the loop over the regions. That's pretty much it. There is a I had started by kind of breaking that out a little bit, but I thought, just as easy to put it inside here. So that's that piece. Now, the configuration provider itself, it inherits from file configuration provider. And this is what gives us the ability to do things like have that automatic update, that automatic reload if the file changes. And the system is actually just going to, the framework's actually just going to pass a stream in. So it takes care of any of the I/O and things like that, and we don't have to worry about it. Now, as far as the one thing that I do here, though, is I do parse out that regions file, and I do this every time the image changes. So when you change the regions that you're evaluating, it's not going to do the refresh for you because the file that we're actually watching is the image file itself. So if you want to go and add regions to your image file, that's fine. You can add the regions, but until you actually touch the JPEG itself or the PNG or whatever you're using, then it will not go and reload this for us. And of course, we do need a parser. That's an image configuration parser. We will have a look at that one. That's this piece here. And then we have the concept of a region. So that has a property name, a top left, and the dimension that we want to evaluate. You could, hey, if you wanted, well, I'll accept pull requests on this. If you want to look in a circular region, you could do that. Just add an issue to the repository, and we'll accept a pull request.
I want my region file to be in JSON.
Why not? I think that's a wonderful use case. So if you're going to use an image for config, I don't see why you wouldn't use JSON. Okay, so this is just something that's reading lines and then it builds regions, parsing the data out. It's not very hardy. It's going to die if it doesn't have 4 exact fields of data in it, those kinds of things. So there's some work to do. This is a proof of concept, but I do have it working. And then finally, we have a file configuration source. So this we just accept basically the default that we need to implement just to wire up the provider or get the file provider that's already available from the builder. This is just like looks to be like a lazy loading pattern. So if the builder's already been configured with a file provider, then we don't have to worry about it. Otherwise, we just allow it to remain the same. Or if more specifically, if there isn't one that's provided specific to this configuration source, then it'll use the one that's available in the builder for us. So that's what that does. Beyond that, the startup looks pretty much the same because I've added that that extension method in here. All you're doing is adding an image file, and then indeed that is loaded as a source. So once you do the builder.build and assign it to your configuration, as we've got here in the last line of the startup method, we will actually see. Now this is probably going to take some time. Come back to me. As this gets loaded here, I'll wait for all these debug pieces to load. Then we're going to hit this breakpoint. The configuration will be populated, and we will see that value. Here we go. We can just evaluate that now. We can see the configuration should have a couple of sources in here. We got 2 providers. I've got environment variables in there as well, but you can see that I've got the config from anywhere and an image configuration provider. And when you look at that, it's got 1 entry in it. Button is disabled is true. So I will proceed to run the application. I will get my image back ready to go. And when we have a look at the site, we will again see that the image is disabled. I will move it back, and as soon as that loads, I will save it to once again prove that there is no better way to store configuration in ASP.NET Core than via a placard sign that Grumpy Cat is holding.
Truly amazing. When can we expect to see this on NuGet as a package?
Well, I'm gonna propose the idea to the ASP.NET team and see if they'll go with it. I'll add the issue and I'll link to the proof of concept, and I'll see if it's taken seriously.
Yeah, I think this is too good for NuGet package. This is going to go right
to be
into
in the
full
product.
framework.
This needs to be full framework. Okay,
This
so
needs to be
So if you're
1.1.
watching this, we'll link to the issue when James puts that up there, and make sure you go and upvote it.
there it is, guys.
Get it in there.
Fabulous.
Wonderful.
Looks
Okay,
good.
that's all I've got.
Good, well,
Thanks, James.
thanks a lot, James, and we'll see everybody on the next episode of the ASP.NET Monsters.
Cheers.
Bye.